Okay, so get ready for a deep dive. We're going deep into Never Let Go. It's a 2024 horror film, one of those films that might have flown under the radar for some people.
Oh, I love these hidden gems. Those are always fun to uncover.
We're really digging deep into this one. We've got IMDb, we've got our fair share of reviews from the critics, even some raw audience reactions. We want to go beyond just like a simple review, We're looking for something more.
Absolutely, those aha moments, right, where you uncover a hidden layer in the film and see it in a whole new light.
Exactly. That's what we're after. So, Never Let Go. What's the basic premise? Well, IMDb tells us it's about this family, right? They find themselves terrorized by this sinister presence, and it all goes down in the woods.
Classic horror setting. Isolated, cut off. You know things are about to get intense.
Right. And to make things even more interesting, their only lifeline, their only means of safety are ropes. But get this, one of the children starts to question if this danger is even real in the first place.
Ooh, that's a good hook. So right away, we're dealing with this question of what's real, what's imagined. It's like, is there actually a supernatural force at play here? Or is the real horror something internal, psychological?
It's giving me serious A Quiet Place vibes. Or Bird Box, even. Remember that intense scene in Bird Box when Sandra Bullock's character is trying to navigate this world where she's got to keep her eyes closed? She's battling these creatures, but they feed on fear. So is it the creatures, or is it her own fear, her own demons that are the real threat?
That's such a good comparison. Never Let Go seems to tap into that same vein. It leaves you wondering what's truly real and what's just our own anxieties bubbling to the surface. It's unsettling, to say the least.
Speaking of unsettling, we checked out some audience reactions. Let me tell you, people had some strong opinions about this one. Some people, they were like, this is so predictable. It's just another horror movie rehashing the same old tropes.
Right, right. I can see how some viewers might find it formulaic.
Yeah, but then you've got these other viewers, and this is where it gets really interesting. They found Never Let Go to be seriously thought-provoking. They loved how it explored the nature of fear, how our beliefs shape our reality, that kind of thing.
See, I find that so fascinating about films like this. It's like they hold up a mirror reflecting all our different fears and perceptions. It's subjective, right? What scares one person might intrigue another. And that makes the discussion so much more interesting. What did you think? Did it resonate with you on a personal level?
It definitely got me thinking, that's for sure. We'll delve more into the psychological aspects of the film a bit later. But before we go there, let's look at some of the hard data.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
IMDb gives Never Let Go a surprisingly low rating. We're talking 5.6 out of 10. And this is with a $25 million budget and Halle Berry as the star. This isn't some low-budget indie flick.
That is surprising, especially considering the director, Alexandre Aja. He's got a pretty solid track record in the horror genre. So, what gives? Why the disconnect between the film's pedigree and its audience score?
Right. It's a head-scratcher. What do you make of it?
Well, one possibility is the pacing. Never Let Go. It's not a jump scare kind of horror film. It's more of a slow burn. It builds tension gradually, relying on atmosphere and psychological suspense rather than those cheap gotcha moments.
Yeah.
And some viewers, they just might not have the patience for that. They want those immediate thrills, the adrenaline rush of a good jump scare.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like the difference between a slow, simmering tension and a sudden explosion, right? Both can be effective, but they definitely appeal to different tastes.
Exactly, and you can see that reflected in the user reviews. Some praised the film's soundtrack. They loved how it created this eerie, unsettling atmosphere.
And someone even specifically mentioned the score in their review. They called it terrific and said it really enhanced the film's overall impact.
It's amazing how music can completely transform a scene, isn't it? It can make you feel that creeping sense of dread, even when nothing overtly scary is happening on screen.
Totally. But of course, not everyone was on board with the slow burn approach. We saw several reviews where people found the film uneventful, like it was just dragging on without delivering any real scares.
Right. I guess it boils down to personal preference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How each of us experiences and interprets fear. Some of us are hardwired to respond to those sudden, visceral shocks, while others find the gradual buildup of psychological tension far more effective.
It's true. It's like the difference between being startled by a sudden noise and feeling a chill down your spine when you sense you're not alone in a dark room. One's a jolt, the other's a slow creep of unease. And both can be equally terrifying.
Well said. And that brings us to the performances, which are absolutely crucial in a film like this, especially those of the younger actors. One review we came across specifically highlighted Percy Daggs V, who plays Nolan, for his performance.
Oh, yeah, I remember that review. The writer was really impressed by his ability to convey those complex emotions. That struggle to separate what's real from what's not, the whole weight of the film's central conflict, all resting on his young shoulders.
Precisely. And in a film where so much is left unspoken, where the line between reality and perception is so blurred, the actors' performances become even more important. They become our guides. They invite us to question alongside them. And without strong performances, a film like this could easily fall flat. But based on the reviews, it seems like the actors, especially Daggs, really delivered.
They really did. And you know what else struck me as interesting? The film's reliance on practical effects for the monsters. In this day and age of CGI heavy horror, it's refreshing to see a film that's not afraid to get a little old school with its scares. What do you think about that choice, using practical effects over CGI?
I think it's a brilliant move, and kind of a bold one, too. By using practical effects, they're grounding the horror in something tangible, something we can almost reach out and touch. But at the same time, the story itself is delving into the psychological, the unknown. So you've got this really interesting contrast between the tangible and the intangible, the real and the imagined. It's almost as if the filmmakers are deliberately blurring the lines, not just within the narrative, but also in how the film itself is constructed.
That's such a great point. It's like they're playing with our expectations, keeping us off balance, unsure of what to trust.
Exactly. And then, just when you think you're starting to get a handle on things,
Hmm.
the film throws you a curveball with its ending.
Ah, yes, the ending.
Yeah.
The source of much debate and discussion among viewers. Some found it frustrating, claiming that the film just didn't offer any resolution. Others, however, felt that the ending, particularly the final shot, provided a definitive answer. So, which is it? Does Never Let Go offer closure, or does it leave us dangling in a web of unanswered questions?
Well, that, my friend, is the million-dollar question. And it's one that we'll be unpacking in our next segment. Stay tuned.
It's funny you should mention unanswered questions because it makes me think about that little IMDb trivia tidbit we dug up. Remember how we talked about how Mark Romanek, the guy who directed 1 Hour Photo, was initially supposed to direct Never Let Go?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Imagine that for a second. The same story, the same unsettling premise, but with Romanek's unique vision. That slow burning tension he's known for, that meticulous attention to detail that just gets under your skin and stays with you long after the credits have rolled.
It's those what-if scenarios that really get the imagination going, don't they? It's like taking the same story and viewing it through a different lens, revealing
Uh-huh.
whole new dimensions and possibilities.
Exactly. It makes you wonder what would Never Let Go have looked and felt like if Romanek had stayed on as director?
Well, for one thing, it might have leaned even more heavily into the psychological aspects of the story. I mean, Romanek is a master of psychological suspense. He knows how to create that palpable sense of unease. He does it through visuals, through sound design, you name it.
He really has a knack for tapping into those primal fears, doesn't he?
He really does.
I don't know.
So, yeah, with Romanek at the helm, Never Let Go might have been even more unsettling, even more ambiguous, more open to interpretation. It's fascinating to think about.
It really is. It makes you realize how much a director's vision can shape a film, even when it's based on an existing story.
Oh, absolutely. The director is like the captain of the ship, guiding the story, the actors, the whole creative vision. It's their interpretation that ultimately comes to life on screen. And speaking of interpretations, it seems like Never Let Go, as it stands, has sparked quite a few different opinions, especially when it comes to that ending.
Right. That cliffhanger, or is it, has definitely got people talking. Some viewers walked away feeling like they had a clear answer, while others are still trying to piece together the puzzle.
It's almost as if the film itself is a Rorschach test, wouldn't you say?
A Rorschach test. I like that.
The meaning, which you take away from it, it's all shaped by your own individual experiences, your beliefs, maybe even your tolerance for ambiguity. Some people, they crave that sense of closure, a nice, neat bow tying everything up. But Never Let Go, well, it seems content to leave us suspended in that state of uncertainty. It's like the film is saying, hey, sometimes there are no easy answers.
It's true. Life rarely gives us those clear-cut resolutions we see in the movies.
Exactly. And by embracing that ambiguity, by refusing to spoon-feed us the answers, Never Let Go, forces us to confront the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the scariest monsters are the ones we create in our own minds, the ones that lurk in the shadows of our own doubts and fears.
And that can be a lot more terrifying than any external threat, any creature lurking in the woods.
You hit the nail on the head. Because it forces us to look inward, doesn't it? To confront those anxieties, those nagging questions that we try so hard to ignore.
It's like the film is holding up a mirror not just to the characters' fears, but to our own. It's a bit unsettling when you think about it.
Unsettling, yes, but also incredibly effective because it keeps those questions lingering in our minds long after the credits roll. It's like a ghost story told around a campfire. The details might fade, but the feeling of unease remains.
And isn't that the mark of truly effective horror? Not just to scare us in the moment, but to leave us with a lingering sense of dread, a seed of doubt planted firmly in our minds.
Precisely. And Never Let Go, with its unique blend of psychological realism, ambiguous threat, and that oh-so-divisive ending, well, it seems to have mastered the art of unsettling suggestion. It gets under your skin and stays there.
It really does.
Yeah.
So, for our listeners out there who appreciate a film that challenges their perceptions, a film that leaves them with more questions than answers, well, Never Let Go might just be the cinematic puzzle box you've been searching for. But here's a question for you. Does a film's refusal to give us those definitive answers, does that make it a more effective exploration of fear? Or does it ultimately undermine its impact?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Does that lack of resolution make it better or worse? I don't know if there's one right answer.
Yeah.
Some people, they really want that neat ending.
Yeah.
All the loose ends tied up.
Yeah.
But for me, personally, I find that open-endedness, it kind of sticks with you.
It does, makes the thing.
It makes you think, yeah.
It's like you walk out of the theater and you're still kind of wrestling with it.
It's almost like the film is asking us to look inward a bit,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
confront our own, anxieties, our own interpretations of what's real, what's not.
Because in a way, isn't that more terrifying?
It is than any monster you could put on screen. The idea that the real horror is, it's not out there, it's in here.
Exactly. It's in our heads. And that's, I think, what makes Never Let Go so effective. It's not just a monster movie.
That's more than that, yeah.
It's a film that really gets under your skin.
It's very psychological, very unsettling.
It makes you question things.
It makes you question everything. What you see, what you believe, what you think you know.
And that's something, we don't see a lot of in horror films these days.
No, not anymore.
So I think, for me anyway, that's what makes Never Let Go stand out. It's a film that doesn't just scare you, it stays with you.
It does. And you know what? That's the power of a good story, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ability to stay with you, to make you think even long after it's over. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Never Let Go.
Hopefully we've given our listeners plenty to think about. Maybe even spark some debates along the way.
That's always a good thing. Always a good thing. So, until next time, keep exploring those shadowy corners of cinema. And remember, sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we create ourselves.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And remember, keep those lights on tonight. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.